Jesus said time would heal all wounds. Time.
60% of the American children, 60% of American children are exposed to violence or abuse. Keep your hands to yourself in front of your kids. Keep your hands in front of yourself in front of our kids. Or abuse in their homes, their school, and their community. We know that children exposed to violence, whether as a victim or as a witness, are more likely to exhibit aggressive behavior. So you wonder why we have gangs in schools. Hello, do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Look, we may not ever have this again, but let's listen to the science here. Yes. Aggressive behavior such as bullying and fighting in schools. There's a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior. Listen to the science. In criminal behavior later in life by repeating the violence they have been exposed to as children. As children. Now, what is the difference between suicide and gangs? Okay.
There is no difference.
There is no difference. You're not right, brother. You want to explain why, in your opinion?
Right. Because once you make a vow to join the gang, then that's commit suicide. That's why I say it's no difference between homicide. Because first of all, you're taking a chance when you step out on the corner and decide you want to be a gang or sell drugs.
Okay. Now, I was out in a way out, Niagara Wheatfield. Y'all know what Niagara Wheatfield High School is? Neither did I until I got there. Now watch this. 5 minutes and by God's grace, I'll be off. I'm driving out to Niagara Wheatfield because people kind of like the way I teach. Because I'm passionate. And I believe in what I'm saying. And I don't put out information that my children will tell you. What's my number one rule, listen? Never lie. Never lie. Sometimes people don't realize they lie with their behavior in front of their children. I'm sorry. We may not never have this moment again. But when I go, my children will know, hey, Dad said never lie. We can go to him and tell him the truth, and he ain't going to chop my head off. Because it takes courage to tell the truth, especially to your parents. So I ain't going to whoop you for telling me the truth. That's how I learned to lie. Did you hear what I said? Come on. So if I'm going to get a whooping, I might as well try to lie myself out of it without getting a whooping and getting screamed at. I'm a lie, because I'm going to get one either way. But I had to learn to stop that. So I stopped it with my children. So now here we go. I'm out in Niagara Wheatfield. This young girl came up to me doing one of my trainings. She says, you know, Uncle Daddy Moses, white girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, she's our child too. Sun shines on everybody, y'all, all our children. So she come up to me and says these words. Listen to this. She says, Uncle Daddy Moses, I have a mom. My mom is 35 years old. She said, I'm 16. My mom is dating a boy 21 years of age. I wanted to say, rah, rah, rah. But I don't know if she even understood that. What's my point between gangs and suicide? My situation is this. When I start hearing the stories those little babies out in Niagara Wheatfield were telling me, and I know what happens at East High School because I'm there, and other schools in the city of Rochester and suburban areas as well. It was like a connection to me. I was like, this is deep. Because what I began to realize, beloved, please hear me well. I began to realize this, a 4-letter word. I said, man, it's not a cuss word either, y'all. A 4-letter word. I said, man, you know what? The kids in Niagara Wheatfield, in Wilson, New York, in Tonawanda, in Rochester, in the so-called Crescent, on the east side and west side, they're no different. You know why? Because they have all experienced a 4-letter word. And you know what that 4-letter word is? Pain. Ooh. Pain pain, beloved. Our kids are in pain. And they're looking to be released from that. Where is the church community? Me and my son was at a football game last week. My wife and my daughter will tell you this. True Bethel in Buffalo. We all went over there to support our kids. We were looking across the field at the Christian church. How many parents over there, Alyssa?
2.
Out of how many kids?
Like 15.
And you wonder why we have this problem. The connection is pain. Kids in suburban communities, they have access to guns because their parents hunt. They have access to cars because they can drive. So how do they, look at the death rate. That's how they commit suicide. They drink themselves to death. How many of our kids actually drink? Do the statistics. How many of our kids in the inner city actually do drugs? Do the statistics. So they put themselves in gang situations because they're in pain. So they know that they will not do this by their own hands. They will let someone else do it.
That's right.
Because they're in pain. Don't you get it? Don't you understand it? They're in pain. Who will take their pain away? Yes, they think that because what else do they have? To support them. They need that support. So we come to the conclusion, we talk about trauma. So many of our kids are acting out what? What has been traumatized to them. How many young men have seen their mothers get punched and beaten? And what has that caused? At the teen empowerment, we sat around with our young men and we sat in a circle and we asked them, what was the most traumatic experience you ever had in your life? And you know what those young men said? Watching my mom be beaten by my father or her boyfriend. Come on, y'all. It was the most traumatic experience. You know why? Because now those young guys, listen, y'all. Come on, man. Look at this guy. Look at this guy here. We ain't punks. We're not born in this world to be punks, y'all. Not even to our wives. Understand my point. We ain't born in this world to take punks. So now these kids, young warriors, seeing this go on, there's a thing in psychology called fight or flight. And then they call one more thing, which is disassociation, which means you break down emotionally and you can't respond. But it doesn't go away. So at 13 or 14 years of age, having trauma, what begins to happen? Kids explode. And when they explode, what they do? They join gangs, because gangs are a support system of all other kids who have what? Been traumatized.